What is up, everybody? I'm Nolex Given here with your afternoon snap, and today our featured location is Nidavellir. So I wanted to take a look at 5 different decks that I would recommend because they are especially good with Nidavellir as the featured location. We're going to kick things off playing the Zeros deck that I showcased yesterday. Got a few new subscribers from that, so figured that was a good place to start. Now, this game is not actually going to feature Nidavellir itself, but it was a fun game that I played against Howling Mines, and they are also playing another deck that I wanted to talk about. So thought this was just a cool way to kick this video off. We're gonna look at 5 actual recommendations for decks, and then I'm going to talk about 2 more fun things that you can play while Nidavellir is today's featured location. So we've got Elysium as location number 1. Nowhere might be a little bit tricky, but it's honestly not going to be too tough. And then I'll play Luke Cage to get through Vormir here, but I'm going to play Bishop into that Nowhere location since we can't really play Thor, Jane, Hitmonkey, our other good cards into Nowhere. Let's just play Bishop and start to build some power there that way. But Elysium is also a pretty good location for this deck. All of our cards costing 1 less means that we can make a huge Hitmonkey. Kind of knew that Absorbing Man was coming when I saw the snap from Howling Minds here. Fellow content creator, shoutouts to them. Also, shoutouts to Brood Absorbing Man, which is a great combo today with Nidavellir as the featured location because you can throw Brood down there and you get a free 15 power in that location. So that's definitely one recommendation, but I think that this Zeros deck can also work pretty well just because you basically wind up having a bunch of junky cards with this deck regardless. You've got all of the Wasps and Yellow Jackets and Mysterios and Mjolnirs that you just want to throw out to pump up your Bishop and Hitmonkey as we draw all of those junky cards now. But those are going to work out well for us this game here as well, even without Nidavellir. So my opponent uses Iron Lad to find Legion to turn all 3 locations into Vormir, and you can see by the text on the Vormir that we still need to activate the Vormirs in location 1 and location 2. We're fine with the Vormir in location 3, and then I can clear out the other ones with my 0 cost cards next turn. So that's the plan. My opponent plays a Wasp to clear one of the Vormirs, but I've said Vormir like 10 times. But Legion into Vormir resets the location. Totally was not thinking about that, so I am going to lose my Kitty Pryde here, and now Hulkbuster attaches onto Jane. But this also resets Vormir for my opponent, so it could actually work out for me. We have all of these Zeros to battle through the Vormirs and reset them again for ourselves, and then I can still drop a bunch of power on this final turn, both by playing a few cards to power up the Bishop and then dropping a huge Hitmonkey. So I think we've got still a surprising amount of power on the final turn if my opponent doesn't know how many cards were in my hand before I played Jane and how many cards are in there now. That's definitely going to be something that people are doing a lot now with Jane, is checking how many cards are in your hand before you play it and after, if they can remember to do so. So that way you know exactly how many 0 cost cards they're playing in their deck. Are they the Yellow Jacket Hitmonkey list that is potentially roaming around here? I've saw some people shout out to me on Twitter and say they've been playing the deck to some success and some fun, just trying to figure out exactly where I want to drop these things this turn. But I do think that this deck could be a good choice for today, just because instead of throwing all that junk into Vormir, you can throw out all of that junk into the Nidavellir, the featured location. So my opponent's going to Shang-Chi my Jane because it got the Hulkbuster on it. That's a little bit unfortunate. I played the Wasp at that location because I was thinking they're not going to be able to play anything additionally to Vormir, so I could potentially tie them if they don't have Silver Surfer or Patriot, and it looks like they don't. instead opting to play Shang-Chi plus Mr. Sinister, which isn't going to be enough. Wasp is going to make that third location 1-14, but those other two locations we are going to be able to win with a huge Hitmonkey plus Thor and a big Bishop plus Lizard. I wanted to highlight some other decks that I thought could be good with Nidavellir as today's featured location. By the way, apologies for no camera, just couldn't get it to work and didn't want to delay this video any further. But I do want to highlight some other decks that could be good with Nidavellir today, and that's going to start with Zabu Discard. I've showed this deck off in the past in my Legion is the best card in Marvel Snap video, but basically I'm playing it today because of Iron Man. I think that any deck that can play Iron Man today is very, very good because Nidavellir is very, very good with Iron Man. Instead of getting plus 15 or plus 20 free power in Nidavellir, you get plus 30 or plus 40, which then allows you to win that location. And my two favorite Iron Man decks, I think right now, that aren't Cerebro 5, which we're going to take a look at in a second, but it's Iron Man and then, or it's Zabu Discard, and then it is going to be another Zabu list, actually, Mr. Negative. Just typically the best Iron Man deck, and it's just a deck that already wants to play Iron Man as well as this one. And this deck even gets a little bit more value from Iron Man because you typically Ghost Rider into the Iron Man. So Ghost Rider's 8, Iron Man makes it 13, and then you're doubled up to 26 power in that location just for 3 energy with Zabu. So yeah, that winds up being a pretty good trade-off, and if you can throw in like a Rock Slide or Silk Hops over there, or even just Zabu. Zabu is totally fine. 2 energy, 7 power, turned into 14 power. So what does that make it? That makes it 40 power with Ghost Rider and Iron Man. Zabu, Ghost Rider, Iron Man, of course, after discarding the Iron Man to Silver Samurai, and then you try to win the other lane with, I don't know, any of the other really powerful cards in the deck. So that's definitely something that I could recommend as well if you want to fight for and try to win Nidavellir, as opposed to the Zeros deck, which honestly just kind of plays for Nidavellir just a little bit. By the way, if you have this deck in your collection, rename it to Zeros Lux Given. That way you remember where you got it from, and you can like and subscribe while you're at it here too. Some other decks that I think could be good are really just any deck that's going to flood the board. Silky Smooths is good, Thanos decks are good, and then of course the Absorbing Patriot list is good as well. And there's one other deck that I think could be sweet in addition to Cerebro 5, and that's going to be in our first gameplay video with Cerebro 5. So here's the deck list. Admittedly, it is a little bit silly, but it's just very cool to be able to play Cerebro and Mystique and Iron Man into today's featured location, Nidavellir, and then play a bunch of really big cards at the other locations. You're kind of hoping that Nidavellir isn't center, that way you can also play Medusa, but I do think that Medusa is kind of an underrated card. It's a 2/5 a lot of the time, which is like just as good as Silk. And then you play a bunch of movement cards, and why these movement cards are great is 2 reasons. One, it's going to let you play a 1/5 in Miles Morales Spider-Man, but the other thing it's going to allow you to do is battle for Nidavellir dominance, and I think that this first game here does a really great job in showcasing that. We play Spider-Man into Nidavellir, of course, and then if you have Polaris, you play that outside of Nidavellir, and both of those things are going to take your opponent out of Nidavellir. I will say Silk could be a little bit of a risk, potentially, because if it flops back into Nidavellir, then you could wind up losing, but the main way around that is to just drop Cerebro plus Mystique into Nidavellir as your turn 6 play, and that'll get Silk out of there, and you won't have to worry about that. This version of the deck, as compared to like Cerebro 3, plays no way to alter locations. It just focuses a little bit more on power, a little bit less on tech, though it does have some cutesy cards. I'm playing Adam Warlock because it has 0 power and we can throw it in Nidavellir, and I thought that was cute. We're just having fun with it here. We're playing some fun stuff. Star-Lord's in it as well, and we also play Dr. Doom, only for those games where we don't have access to Nidavellir. But this game we do have access to Nidavellir, so not going to worry about Dr. Doom. Going to throw down the cheap Miles Morales here on turn 4 along with Cerebro. And then next turn, I'll follow that up with a Mystique. And then on the final turn of the game, I can play Iron Man plus Titania. So pretty good stuff. But I also wanted to highlight what my opponent is trying to do here. And it's a little bit awkward. The Shuri isn't going to be super great for them, but it is another great way that you can take advantage of Nidavellir. And I'm going to scroll ahead here a little bit after I drop this Mystique, I think. One other cool way that you can take advantage of Nidavellir, though, is with Venom, which can eat up all of that Nidavellir power, and then if you have Arnim Zola, you can send all of that power to both of the other locations. So this game is really going to come down to if my opponent has Arnim Zola on the final turn to send over that 24 power Venom to both of the other locations. And I'm just going to wind up dropping Iron Man into, and actually I should really just play around Arnim Zola here. So I should just drop Iron Man plus Titania probably into the Dream Dimension. I think that that would be likely my best play. And then I win in Nidavellir, and I probably win in the vault, assuming they don't have any other way to interact with that location at this point. So that would be the play. My opponent just winds up retreating there, but I did want to take a look at one other game with this deck here, and that one is going to kick off with an Adam Warlock into Nidavellir. Now, unfortunately in this one, my opponent has a bunch of power themselves in Nidavellir, and I do think that Loki is probably a fine choice for Nidavellir as the featured location as well, for its ability to swarm the board with cards that are reduced by both Loki and Quinjet. So, yeah, I could definitely see just playing that. My opponent's actually playing some interesting stuff, though, in this one. They've got Lady Sif plus Hellcarrier to add some random cards to their hand, and I'm going to play Spider-Man to try to get some Nidavellir advantage here, try to get some of my opponent's cards out of Nidavellir. But with Kunlun as location number 3, things are looking awkward for me. I'm not going to be able to Cerebro 5 this game. My opponent's going to hit me with a green goblin here. And then Kitty Pryde also means that I'm probably just never going to activate Adam Warlock unless I really battle for this location. So I'm going to play Star-Lord here and Silk. I could have played the Silk second to activate it this turn, but I was trying to see if I could get that Silk over into Kunlun and see what I can do with that. Unfortunately, it goes over into Bar with No Name, so things are not looking great here. My opponent Ghost Riders the Hellcarrier, replays Kitty Pryde. I do have Iron Man, though, to win in Nidavellir, and that was the main reason that I wanted to showcase this game, is because Iron Man in Nidavellir is really good, and I just wanted to hammer that point home. Playing either Iron Man yourself or tech for opposing Iron Mans is definitely a good decision. Do you see it? Do you see what the play is? We play Titania, then Mystique into Bar with No Name. That's going to pass the Titania over to my opponent and get the Silk out of that location for a surprising flip in Bar with No Name for the final turn. And we've already won in Nidavellir. Now we make my opponent lose in the Bar with No Name, draw an additional card with Adam Warlock as we win the game there. Thought that was a really sweet one, and just wanted to finish the video off with that. But for today, that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm No Lex Given. Peace.